any message from the President delivered to the Speaker for communication to the House. In this regard, I wish to convey to the House that this afternoon I have received a further message from His Excellency the President notifying the nomination of various persons to appointment to the offices of Cabinet Secretaries. The names are in addition to the ones I conveyed to the House yesterday. In the message, His Excellency the President conveys that in exercise of powers conferred on him by Articles 152(2) of the Constitution, as read together with Section 3 and 5 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, he nominates various persons for appointment to the aforementioned offices. For clarity, Article 152(2) of the Constitution states, and I quote, "The President shall nominate and with the approval of the National Assembly appoint Cabinet Secretaries." The names of persons submitted to this House for approval for appointment as Cabinet Secretaries are as follows: John Mbandi Ngongo, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, the Cabinet Secretary, the National Treasury and Economic Planning. Honorable Salim Mugala, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry. Honorable Rebecca Miano, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. Honorable James Opio Wandai, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Energy and Petroleum. Honorable Onesimus Kipchumba Murkomen, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports. Honorable Hassan Joho, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Youth, Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs. Honorable Dr. Alfred Nganga Mutua, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Labor and Social Protection. Honorable Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Cooperative and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development. Honorable Justin Betan Njoka Muturi, EGH, Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Public Service and Human Capital Development. Honorable Ms. Stella Soy Langat, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Gender, Culture, the Arts and Heritage. In view of the foregoing and pursuant to the provisions of Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act of 2011, Order Mayaka. In view of the foregoing and pursuant to the provisions of Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, as read together with the Standing Order 42.3, I hereby refer the message from the President together with the curriculum vitae of the nominees to the Committee on Appointments. Honorable members, Section 8 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011 provides that unless otherwise provided in law, the committee to which such nomination is referred shall consider the matter and table a report in the House within 28 days. It is therefore imperative that the Committee on Appointments consolidates the names contained in the two lists and immediately commence the process of consideration of the nominees. The committee is expected to immediately notify the nominees and the general public, commence the necessary approval hearings and table its report in the House soonest to enable the House to consider the nominees within the stipulated timelines. I thank you. Call out again now order number 10. Number 9.
Order number 10, motion, consideration of Senate amendments to the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2023.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Allow me to move that the Senate amendments to the Conflict of Interest Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2023, be now considered. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 48, allow me to move this motion in an amended form, which is that the Senate amendments to the Conflict of Interest Bill. Honorable Speaker, if you can
Order, honorable
me.
members. Order. Honorable Raphael Wanjala. Recess quietly. Members on their feet, take your seats. Honorable Sirima, you're a senior. You should be the last to interrupt proceedings. Members who wish to walk out of the chamber, do it with order. This bill that is being moved has tremendous consequences on many of the things that this country is doing. And I would expect you to listen to the majority leader, contribute where you can, or vote when the vote is called. It is not fair for you to vote on a bill you have not even listened to.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think members are a bit excited because of the communication you made, especially considering that there are a number of nominees who are members of this House, and it is premature of us to get excited because we are expected to vet these nominees. And I could only take this opportunity to congratulate my good friend, the Honorable Millie Mabona Odhiambo, who I see has taken over a seat, not a position. And any member can sit anywhere, by the way. Therefore, allow me, Honorable Speaker, I was saying, understanding Order 48, to allow me to move this motion in an amended form, which is that the Senate amendments to the Conflict of Interests Bill, National Assembly Bill number 12 of 2023, be now rejected. Honorable Speaker, under the normal circumstances, such a motion to consider Senate amendments to a bill that originated from the National Assembly would ordinarily be moved by the chairperson of the relevant committee, under whose mandate the bill falls, and in this case, I think it's the JLA committee. And Honorable Speaker, in the present case, I have decided to move this motion as the sponsor of the bill to expedite its consideration owing to the peculiar circumstances of the positions taken by the two houses of the bill, on the bill, Honorable Speaker. And thank you, Honorable Speaker, that you have pointed it out to members that this bill has huge implications on the conduct of business for both public and state officers, and therefore it's important that members pay keen attention to all the amendments that were proposed by the Senate, which were communicated to the House on the 4th of June 2024, and the amendments were committed to the Departmental Committee on JLAC for consideration and reporting to the House. The nature of the amendments received from the Senate has largely informed my decision to move this motion to catalyze its inevitable referral to mediation. Because, Honorable Speaker, as I said, the Senate made amendments that would necessitate us getting into a process of mediation. And however long JLAC team takes, I think the end result will be the same, getting into a mediation committee that can unlock the extremely divergent views of the two houses on the content of the bill, which I will shortly highlight. Honorable Speaker, when I introduced this bill, it sought to repeal the Public Officer Ethics Act of 2003 and establish a framework for managing conflict of interest in the discharge of public duties under the general supervision of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC. Currently, Honorable Speaker, the Public Officer Ethics Act establishes various entities as responsible commissions for various state and public officers. For instance, Honorable Speaker, the Committee of Powers and Privileges of the National Assembly is the responsible commission for these members of parliament who are not listening, Honorable Speaker. It is the responsible commission for members of the National Assembly. While the Parliamentary Service Commission is a responsible commission for all parliamentary staff. The bill, as published, sought to change this by making EACC responsible for all state and public officers. Honorable Speaker, when this House considered the bill, it made various... I shall not repeat because you are asked by the Speaker to pay attention. I have told you, under the Public Officers and Ethics Act, it establishes various commissions that are responsible for the conduct of overseeing conflict of interest. Under this act, the Powers and Privileges Committee of the National Assembly is the responsible commission under the act for members of parliament, while the Parliamentary Service Commission is the responsible commission for members of staff. And I further said that the bill, as published, sought to change this by making EACC the responsible commission for all state and public officers. I further told you that when this House considered the bill, and we did all consider in second reading and the Committee of the Whole, we made various amendments which sought to do a number of things, including one, maintaining the existing model of wealth declarations to entities that directly supervise the conduct and ethics of the various categories of public officers. In this regard, the House agreed to repeal the Public Officer Ethics Act and insisted on transferring specific provisions from the Act to the bill. Two, we align the bill with the responsibilities of members of Parliament, and this is important, members, that when in Committee of the Whole we considered amendments, we aligned the bill to your responsibilities as members of Parliament on declaration of conflict of interest in parliamentary debate under the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Act of 2017. You remember the bill, as was published, was creating a conflict of interest even on matters that pertain to your work as a member of Parliament. And we sought to make those amendments during the Committee of the Whole. Three, we expanded the declarations to include previous categories of public and state officers that were not expressly provided for under the Public Officer and Ethics Act, for instance, that of the Chief Justice and Cabinet Secretaries. Four, we limited the definition of the word relative. Those who are here during second reading, you will all recall the very broad definition of the word relative in the conduct of affairs of a state or public officer, and we limited this definition to the affairs of a state or public officer and his or her dependent children. And we also, in 5, prohibited, not only prohibiting public officers from contracting with public bodies in which they are employed. You will recall the bill as published prohibited public and state officers and their broad definition of relatives from conducting business with any entity of government. Conversely, Honorable Speaker, from the message received from the Senate has reversed everything that this House passed. The Senate has deleted and proposed repeal of the Public Officer Ethics Act. This has resulted in the proposed repeal of clauses including those on functions of the Commission, participation of members in proceedings before Parliament or county assemblies. Therefore, there is debate you cannot interact with as a member of Parliament or as a member of county assemblies on the basis of what the Senate has done. Acquisition of interest in partnerships and private companies, restricted gainful employment, for instance, people who are here and are lawyers, professional accountants, etc. The register of conflict of interest, where this register will be. Prohibitions on state officers after leaving office, having served as a state officer, what other gainful employment can you get into? And we had made amendments relating to that. the prohibition against representing people before reporting entities, and declaration of income, assets, and liabilities by public officers. Honorable Speaker, additionally, the Senate has deleted the EACC as administrator of the bill and deleted all provisions on conflicts of interest in the Public Officer Ethics Act, the Leadership and Integrity Act, the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, and the Senate amendments are the complete opposite of what the National Assembly considered and passed in the bill. I therefore move that the Honorable Speaker, I've just given the background of what we had done in this bill and what the Senate has proposed to do in the amendments that I'm calling on the House to reject. Because what the amendments that the Senate has passed, besides negating everything that we did to make this bill become workable, what the Senate has done, and without casting aspersions on the other House, Honorable Speaker, must be informed by a huge conflict of interest in the other House. Because, Honorable Speaker, you appreciate this is a House that has been unable to impeach even a single governor. And I saw them the other day pontificating on issues to do with integrity and corruption in this country, Honorable Speaker. But, Honorable Speaker, and you know, we have restrained ourselves over the last 2 years from discussing the other House or even the conduct of members of that House, even under extreme provocation. But, Honorable Speaker, we must stand with the people of Kenya. This bill is critical in the fight against corruption. The dilution that the other House, Senate, has visited on this bill makes this bill completely unworkable. It creates a very fertile ground for corruption and conflict of interest to continue taking root in our republic, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, we must be the bigger brother between the two houses. We must be the House that stands with the people of Kenya who have spoken loudly and told us that matters touching on conflict of interest, matters touching on theft of public resources must come to an end. We must be that House, Honorable Speaker, that today will stand with the people of Kenya and tell our brothers in the Senate that it will not be business as usual for governors to steal and get away scot-free with what they have stolen from the people of Kenya, knowing that because of conflict of interest, they can influence what will happen in the other House and their county assemblies. We must be that House. Honorable Speaker, this House has a singular responsibility of being the people's representatives, while the other House represents counties. Being the people's representatives, Honorable Speaker, we must be the ones to stand today with the people of Kenya. And I think, Honorable Speaker, listening to what Kenyans are saying out there, and I have seen this being one of the bills that even the young Kenyans in our country and other Kenyans of goodwill who want a change in the manner things are done in this country have asked the Houses of Parliament to expedite with, is this bill. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, we have a national duty to reject these amendments, get into mediation, and show our brothers and sisters in the other House that it is only right to do what is good for the greater good of our people, not what is good for leaders and public officers who hold office. Honorable Speaker, this bill, and I have heard in today's communication from the President, he has also alluded to it, is an important bill not just for us as public and state officers, even to protect ourselves as state officers against accusations, unfair accusations of engaging in corruption or corrupt activities, but also in protecting the assets of the Kenyan people against public and state officers, Honorable Speaker, and even people in the private sector, Honorable Speaker. This bill was misconstrued in the other House to be speaking to just public and state officers. The conduct of corrupt activities in this country, Honorable Speaker, is also largely driven by the private sector. This conflict of interest bill speaks also to conflict of interest by the private sector. 1 minute. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I was saying, for instance, if you look at the lot and the looting that has pervaded in the old NHIF, the National Health Insurance Fund. It has not come out of conflict of interest by particularly state officers. Private entities have engaged in massive looting and corruption in NHIF. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, when you run a private hospital and you engage with a public entity, it is only a law like this that will protect the assets of the Kenyan people. And I want to beg this House, as I move and call on the Vice Chair of the Jailer Committee, the Honorable Mwengi Mutuse, to second, I want to call on this House to reject in total all the amendments by the Senate to protect the people of Kenya from conflict of interest, corruption, and wanton looting of their assets and resources. I beg to move and ask Honorable Mutuse to second.
Mutuse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to second the motion that has been ably moved by our majority leader